Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about my March wrap-up, talking about all of the books that I managed to finish, and sadly, a couple of books that I DNF'd. I DNF'd 2 books this month, and just overall, March was not a very good reading month. I did have a new 5-star favorite though, so that's positive news. But unfortunately, if you've seen my previous video, my April TBR, you guys know that I haven't had a lot of reading time recently because I've been working a lot. And March definitely reflects that. I only managed to finish, I believe, 6 or 7 books. Yeah, I finished 7 books and I DNF'd 2 books. And I didn't get to all of the books that I wanted to, which is very unfortunate. But overall, not a terrible month, but probably the worst month of the year so far. Hopefully in April, during Battle of the Band, which is taking place right now, hopefully I can manage to read a bunch of great books and just kind of up my game up a little bit here. But for this video, I'm going to be chatting about my March reading. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So let's first take a look at those pesky DNFs. Like I mentioned, I had 2, which is a far cry from when I had 5 in November and 5 in December. I only had 1 in January, 1 in February, but I had 2 this month. I was hoping to have 0, but you know, it is what it is. I don't have time to read books that I'm not interested in. The first one, not too surprising. I was hoping to manage to finish this, but The Vacation by John Marrs. Sadly, this is the 2nd book I've DNF'd from him at this point. I also DNF'd The One, which I really didn't like the writing and the structure of that book. And then this one was kind of more of the same, like just very short, choppy chapters. And just, it never got interesting to me. Like the first chapter, like you introduce like a thing and you're just like, okay, well, what's up with that? But then the rest of it just never got interesting to me. And like I mentioned, I really just don't like these short, choppy chapters. You really have to do it well for me to enjoy it. And so, for some reason, John Marrs just doesn't do it well. Like The Passengers had a lot of chapters, but he did it in a way where it kept me engaged and interested throughout. But for whatever reason, a lot of his books that do that, I just don't enjoy. So sadly, I DNF'd this one, I think around 100 pages or so. And the second book I DNF'd was very disappointing because it's going to make a lot of people sad and upset, Ian so much so, and that would of course be Lonesome Dove. This book was a monster undertaking, about 1,000 pages, 37 hours on audio, and good God, I'm going to try to be nice, but I also have to be honest, I did not care. Like, I got halfway through this book and I realized, you know what? I just don't care. And it's very, very disappointing because I'd heard that this book was just very exciting and filled with awesome characters that you grow to love. But for me, like, there was maybe like one character that I was interested in, and that was about it. And honestly, nothing really happens in this book. Like, not literally, but like the way that the story is told, it just feels like nothing is happening, nothing is progressing. And I felt that way halfway through the book, which is not a good feeling in a 1,000-page tome. So yeah, I sadly DNF'd this book. It's just not for me. A lot of people cite this as one of their favorites of all time, if not their absolute favorite, which I can understand, but for me, I just don't get it. Like, it's just not for me. All right, now that we have the pesky DNFs out of the way, now let's go in order of least favorite to favorite, which I did have a 5-star favorite. You guys might be able to guess what it is. I also had another 5-star reread, but you guys could already probably guess that too. But let's go ahead and start out with the more disappointing books. The first one I have is actually our Thrill Chill or Kill book club pick, which I was very interested in this book, and I just, again, I was very bored with it. I was able to manage to finish it, though, because it was just super short. It was only 6 hours on audio. I haven't said the name of the book yet. It's Puzzle House by Duncan Ralston. Like I mentioned, 6-hour horror book, and it had a very interesting premise. I thought I was going to read kind of like Escape by Ian Robb Wright, where you have a group of characters and they're kind of in an escape room situation and they have to try to figure out how to get out of it. It kind of started out that way, but then it just, none of the characters grabbed me, and the things that were happening, while they were gruesome, it just didn't keep my attention. And then the direction the book went in, I really didn't like that either. I don't really love when it goes in, I won't spoil it, but it went in a direction that I'm just like, just keep it simple. Like, you got a great premise, just keep it simple. And this book, I didn't care about really most of it. So 2.5 stars, kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. I think most people thought this book was just okay. Like, I saw a lot of people who read it with us gave it 3 stars, which, I can agree with. But for me, 2.5 stars, I didn't really care. Another book that I sadly did not really get along with was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I was somewhat excited to read this book. This was actually my Patreon pick, which was chosen for me to read by A Confused Goat. And this book started out pretty well. Like, I really enjoyed the first couple of chapters where we get introduced to the idea of this apocalypse happening, and you're following these people that are loosely involved with this play that's happening. But for me, the reason this book is so low, like I gave this book 2.5 stars, is a lot of the random time jumps that happen. And I couldn't really get a firm grasp on the characters. I didn't really love any of these characters. And the fact that, like, you spend some time with them, but then you jump just different time, like, it's all over. This book is just kind of all over the place. I wish this book would have been a bit more cohesive. Like, the writing was decent, but for me, the structure of it and the fact that I didn't really grow to love any of these characters kind of dampened my view on it. So I gave this book 2.5 stars. It wasn't terrible by any means, but it just wasn't for me. I know a lot of people love this book again, but it just wasn't for me. And another book that I would describe as kind of a really disappointed parent looking down on not a bad kid, but like a good kid that did something bad in the moment. Like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And that would actually be Rose Matter by Stephen King. This was our pick for March for the Stephen King Book Club, run by me and Ian the Reader. And a lot of people kind of liked this book a bit more than me. I think Ian really liked it. He didn't mind the weird direction that it went in. And then I think a couple of other people gave it like 3.5 or 4 stars. Like, they liked it. For me, this book is definitely a tale of two halves. I do have a dedicated book review for it where I go into a lot more detail about the book. But essentially, I loved the first half of this book. I loved the characters. I loved the tension. But then Stephen King, like with a lot of his books, introduces this very weird and out there supernatural element that I just didn't jive with. And it kind of just took me out of the story. And the second half of this book, I really did not enjoy. So, very disappointed because it started out like 4.5, 5-star material. But by the end, I settled on 3 stars. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. And then sadly, kind of another disappointing book. I liked it, but I didn't love it like I was expecting to, was The Reformatory by Tananarive, if I'm saying that correctly. This book has been on my radar for quite some time, and this book was gifted to me by Ian the Reader, and sadly, it's hard to rate this book because I loved certain elements of it, but I didn't love everything about this book. This book is mainly told in two perspectives. One of them is a brother, one of them is a sister. For me, I think I would have loved this book if it was just told from the brother's POV. For me, the sister's POV kind of took me out of what I was enjoying about the story. Like, I get why her POV is important to the story and kind of the theme and the messaging of it, but for me, I was definitely more enjoying the brother's story because that's where we get kind of the real horror elements of it. The sister is kind of more like well, all of this is somewhat real life, but the sisters is kind of just more like, I don't know how to describe this without spoiling anything, but just know that I was definitely enjoying the brother's POV. Very creepy, very scary, very intense. Really liked his stuff. The sisters, it got better by the end, but this book was not quite as stark contrast as Rose Matter, where like I loved the first half and really didn't like the second half. It was just, I was enjoying one POV way more than the other. I did give this book 3.5 stars, so I did enjoy it, but I was expecting to love this book, so slight disappointment. Next book I have to talk about is Memory Man by David Baldacci. And I also have a dedicated book review for this where I go into much more detail about why I enjoyed the book. And the reason that I read this book was because Aaron is a God tier Patreon member. And if you're a God tier Patreon member, you get to automatically choose 2 books for me to read, and I will do dedicated book reviews for them. And this was the first one he wanted me to read in 2025. And I enjoyed this book. I wasn't expecting to really enjoy this book, but I basically did. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked the writing. I really liked the mystery and the plot and the pacing. The main character of Amos Decker was very good. The reason that it only gets 4 stars and not much higher, the audiobook quality was poor. It had random sound effects, kind of like with Stephen King. If you listen to some of his, like, it'll just randomly have sound effects that don't need to be there. And also, it kind of had 2 narrators. It had one for the male and one for, like, anytime a female character would speak, they would just randomly have a female narrator. That I didn't really like. So, poor audiobook quality, and the ending wasn't very good. I didn't love the reveal, and I didn't love the way that it wrapped up. But overall, the book was still very good. I ended up giving it 4 stars and pretty much enjoyed it. Now we come to the 2 5-star reads that kind of saved the month here, because without them, this month would have been pretty disappointing because had 2 DNFs and just a slew of disappointments. So one of the worst reading months I've had in a while. Definitely the worst so far in 2025. Hopefully we're only going up from here. But these 2 5-star reads were just a lot of fun. Especially this first one that I'll talk about, which is a reread, and that would be The Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch. And I actually just finished this book not too long ago, like an hour ago. I was outside doing yard work, and I read the last few chapters. And man, this series, I love Scott Lynch, and I love Gentleman Bastard series. Probably my 3rd favorite, just behind A Song of Ice and Fire and Stormlight. I love this series. Literally the only thing I don't like about the 3rd book is the fact that we still don't have the 4th book. Because, man, I've been waiting, I think, like a decade for that book. Hopefully we get it soon. We'll see. But I love this. I love the 3rd book. And actually, I have to change my ranking now because originally, like, the 1st book is still my favorite. Lies of Locke Lamora is easily a top 10 book for me of all time. And originally, like, the first couple of times I read the series, I liked it, like, 1, then 2, then 3. But after this reread, I think I have to change it to 1, then 3, then 2. The 3rd book is just amazing. I think mainly the pacing is a little bit better than the 2nd book. That's the main reason it kind of steps up. But yeah, this third book, we get a lot of reveals. There's a lot of humor in this book. The pacing is really good. Just everything about this book is amazing. And I love the series. And I just wish we would get the fourth book. Like, if I had it right now. Anyway, so that was my first, well, not my first because I just finished it, but that was one of my 5-star reads. That was a reread. But, like I mentioned, this was a fairly disappointing month. But I did have one 5-star new to me read, which was great because in February, even though that was technically a better reading month, I didn't have a 5-star new read. But in March, I did have one, and that would be The Unworthy by Agustina Batrica. This book, y'all, was amazing. I didn't love it quite as much as Tender is the Flesh. I still love that book a bit more, but this book just, it had a very haunting quality to it, and I loved the writing. I loved how weird it was, and I loved the epistolary style of it, or epistolary. This book, the character was very good. The grossness factor of it was there. And yeah, this book, it's a book that, like, I finished it. Like, I read it in one sitting because it's very short. And then as soon as I finished it, I wanted to go back and experience it again. So maybe it's a book that I could reread this year, which probably is not smart. But I loved this book. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. Very dark, because obviously, you know, Tender is the Flesh. Like, well, what are you going to expect? But, yeah, this book was amazing. And it basically, along with Republic of Thieves, saved March, because otherwise this just would have been a really shitty reading month. But yeah, not Tender is the Flesh. The Unworthy. Very great book. 5 stars. So that's now 3 5-star reads for the year. I'm not sure how I would quite rank them, because one of them is The Unworthy, the other one is Boys in the Valley, and the other one is Small Mercies. 3 very different books, so I don't know how I would rank them. But yeah, The Unworthy, 5 stars. All right, so that is my reading month for March. Most of March was very disappointing. 2 DNFs, 2 2.5-star reads, a 3-star, a 3.5-star, and then we had 1 4-star, and then 2 5-stars. So definitely a mixed bag, definitely more leaning on the bad than the good, but I was able to read some great books in the end. So yeah, March, kind of a down month, but hopefully April, during Battle of the Bands, it'll pick up, and hopefully I pick up a lot of great books. No DNFs, because it's a readathon, so we'll see what happens. What I want to know is what y'all thought about the books that I read here, and have you read any of them? Let me know what you thought about them. Did I convince any of you to pick them up or to not pick them up? Comment down below. And also, if you like this video, thank you guys so much for watching, first of all. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Stay subscribed for more content. And what else? Bookish Sherman Discord, where we've got tons of buddy reads and read-alongs happening every damn month. Patreon down below if you want to go support me there for as little as $1 a month. And Amazon wishlist if you'd like to buy me a book. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a fantastic day.